One of the quickest paths to understanding Medicare better is to know the difference between a Medigap plan and a Medicare Advantage plan. I talk to a lot of people that are new to Medicare, and I hear so many stories about what you're going through, and I understand how confusing and overwhelming this process is. The government has set up a system in a way that makes it seem like you have hundreds of options to wade through. You've got parts A, B, C, and D, and the Medigap plan letters such as G and N, commercials on TV, online, junk mail, offering to pay you back money, give you gift cards, on, but they don't tell you anything about what the plan actually is. How do you know what information to trust when it sounds too good to be true? I boil all this down to just two options, Medigap and Medicare Advantage. I'm Pam Turner, the creator and facilitator of the Medicare Facebook group known as Navigating Medicare the Easy Way. I help you to get rid of all those fears and worries about getting on a Medicare and enrolling in the right plan by streamlining the whole process for you. In today's topic, I'm going to cover why are these plans complete polar opposites of each other? When can you switch from one to the other? How do you know which one is best for you? And watch all the way to the end to hear how your decision might affect your future. I'm going to be mentioning things about Advantage Plan that nobody talks about. Grab a piece of paper if you have one nearby, because in a few minutes I'm going to give you some specific points to write down that will help you remember the difference between these two plan types. There's a really blurry line separating the difference between your original government Medicare and the options that you have through private insurance companies. I want you to keep in mind that before you make any plan choices, you need to sign up for your original Medicare on time so you don't get any penalties. No matter what you choose to buy through private insurance as a supplement, you're going to pay the same flat fee to Medicare for your original Medicare ongoing. For most people this year, it's $185 a month. There's two reasons that people buy additional insurance over and above their original Medicare. Number one, you can run out of hospital days on Medicare. And number two, there's no out-of-pocket cutoff to the amount that you might have to pay out of pocket in a calendar year on Medicare. All other insurance has this maximum out-of-pocket cutoff protection, but Medicare doesn't. I often talk about the fact that there's just two paths you can take. Those two paths are Medigap and Medicare Advantage. My goal today is to help you to understand how that these two are complete polar opposites of each other and to help you to see which is the better fit for you. So what is a Medigap plan and what is a Medicare Advantage plan? A Medigap plan is an insurance policy that you buy from a private insurance company, and its job is to pay your Medicare copays for you. Buying a Medigap plan keeps your original Medicare as is, and Medicare stays as the primary payer of your medical claims. What I mean by Medicare staying as the primary payer is that when you go to the doctor sends the bill directly to Medicare. This means that your insurance company doesn't really matter as far as your doctor is concerned. The doctor simply needs to accept Medicare and bill Medicare direct. There's no in-network or out-of-network when it comes to Medigap plans. All you need to know is, does your doctor accept original Medicare? This is a common misconception, and sometimes even the billing staff at some doctor's offices don't fully get this concept. Next, I'm going to talk about what a Medicare Advantage plan is. You can't have a Medigap plan and a Medicare Advantage plan at the same time. You can only have one or the other. The Medicare Advantage plan is a different way to get your Medicare. The way Medicare explains this is when you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, you're no longer on original Medicare. Sometimes it's described as a privatized version of Medicare. Here's how Advantage plans work. The Department of Medicare pays private insurance companies to administer your Medicare benefits in the form of a health plan, sort of like the individual marketplace plans. That's why you have to keep paying your flat monthly rate to the government for your Medicare when you sign up on an Advantage plan. Medicare then pays your Advantage plan company a flat monthly fee. That's how your Medicare Advantage plan company stays in business, because it's funded by the government. Since Medicare is no longer paying your claims when you join an Advantage plan, they're essentially paying your insurance premiums for you to the Advantage plan company. This means that the rules of the Advantage plan override the rules of original Medicare, so you have to pay attention to the rules and regulations of your Advantage plan. That's why the government requires agents and brokers like myself to get permission from you prior to talking about the Advantage plan benefits, meaning like if we're going to have a one-on-one appointment. In fact, there was a new rule that was set up in October of 2023 that we as brokers have to get formal permission from you 48 hours prior to having a phone call or meeting in person. Luckily, I have a super easy system that I use that takes just 30 seconds for you to complete this form by email. Now, there's a reason for so many of these rules and regulations. It's because the plans are easily misunderstood and because the plans have more restrictions than original Medicare alone. There's also a lot of confusion and deception surrounding the ads and claims made through advertising about Advantage plans. Hopefully you're starting to see how these plans are polar opposites. One keeps your original Medicare in place and the other takes over your Medicare benefits through a private insurance plan. Next, I'm going to get into all the other reasons that these plans are polar opposites. If you want to follow along on a piece of paper and take notes, you can make 2 columns, writing Medigap at the top on the left-hand side, and then write Medicare Advantage in the top on the right-hand side. Under Medigap, you can write under that side at the top, keeps original Medicare, and under the Medicare Advantage plan side, replaces original Medicare. And just to clarify, on an Advantage plan, you're still on Medicare. It's just a different way to get it, and Medicare isn't paying the claims directly anymore. Next, we're going to talk about cost. Medigap plans overall have a higher monthly cost to you, and Advantage plans usually have a lower cost. It's common to see 0 monthly cost Advantage plans. So think of Medigap plans as more expensive. Expense is relative though. To one person, the value that they're getting from the Medigap plan is entirely worth it. It may not even seem that expensive, but to another, it might be completely out of their budget. So these are some of the things we look at when we're comparing. If you're following along and taking notes, under the Medigap side, you can write down higher monthly premium, and under the Medicare Advantage side, you can write down low or 0 premium. Next, we're going to talk about predictability. Medigap plans are highly predictable. The benefits don't change. You always know what the Medigap plan will be paying for. The Advantage plans are unpredictable because the benefits can change year to year. Also, you don't know year to year what medical expenses you might encounter. So under the Medigap side, you can write down predictable, and under the Advantage plan side, write down unpredictable. Next, we're going to talk about risk. When I use the word risk, I'm usually talking about the risk to your finances. In other words, what's the worst case scenario of cost you could face in a calendar year? The way you measure this with a Medigap plan is you add up the monthly cost of the Medigap plan and then any out-of-pocket expense, for instance, the Medicare deductible. For example, on a Plan G, now this is the highest coverage plan you can get, here's everything that you would be paying in a year. Your monthly premium for the plan and the small Medicare deductible, which is $257, and that's the maximum cost in a year for your medical, not including prescription medications or the drug plan premium. That's separate, so sorry I'm not covering that right now. Now, to give you a hypothetical example, say that the Plan G in your zip code is priced at $140. $140 times 12 months of premiums would equal $1,680 plus the $257 deductible. If you end up getting some medical care that year, that would total $1,937, which is your max out of pocket for that given year. This is because Plan G pays all your out of pocket after you meet the Medicare deductible. Keep in mind that you pay these premiums whether you use the plan or not, and the premiums do go up every year. The way you measure risk on an Advantage plan is you look at the max out of pocket number. Every Advantage plan has this number set at the beginning of the calendar year. For instance, Medicare allows plans to currently set their max out of pocket as high as $9,350, but it can be lower depending on the plan. All the copays and coinsurance that you pay throughout the year goes toward this number. It's not the same as a deductible. So whatever your Advantage plan's max out of pocket is set at in a given year would be your maximum financial risk. And again, this is not including the prescription drug copays, but there's no additional premium for the drug plan, though, however, on the Advantage plan. Now, many Advantage plans have this number set, the max out of pocket, much lower than the allowed amount of $9,350, so don't assume they're all going to be that high. Other areas of risk on an Advantage plan can include things like being restricted on what doctors you can see or needing an authorization for certain medical tests or procedures. This can sometimes feel like you're being controlled or that you have obstacles in your way to getting access to care. So you have to be willing on an Advantage plan to be your advocate, to advocate for yourself and make sure you're getting the care that you need. If you're taking notes, under the Medigap side, you can write less restrictions, and under the Medicare Advantage side, more restrictions. Another way the plans are polar opposites is when it comes to your pharmacy drug coverage. This is known as Part D of Medicare. Medigap plans don't come with the drug coverage. You have to buy a separate plan. But with Advantage plans, the drug coverage is bundled in at no additional cost. Just as a side note, even though your drug coverage is a part of Medicare, the only way you can get it is through a private insurance drug plan, whether it's, Medicare Advantage or standalone. So in case you were wondering, you don't add Part D at the same time you're signing up for Part A and Part B. You'll add it later depending on which plan type you go with. Next, I want to talk about how to switch from one plan type to the other plan type. This is important, especially if you go through this whole process and you still aren't sure which one you want. You may want to try out one or the other, and maybe you like the idea of being able to switch later. If you buy an Advantage plan, there's a law in place that lets you have a 1-year trial on the plan, and at any time in that first year on the plan, you can drop it and get a Medigap plan without health questions. But there's a catch. In order to utilize this rule, in most cases, you had to have started both parts of your Medicare on the same date at age 65. And unfortunately, this doesn't apply to everyone, which doesn't seem fair, but it's still worth checking into because some Medigap plans may make an exception. Now, to get off your Advantage plan, generally, you have to wait until the fall open enrollment to drop your Advantage plan. The process would be, now, if you're getting off the Advantage to switch to a Medigap plan, this is what you need to do. You apply for the Medigap plan first. This is during the open enrollment when you're actually going to be able to drop that Advantage plan. So when you apply for that Medigap plan first, it's going to help you find out if you can pass the health questions. Once you pass and get approved, then you'll drop the Advantage plan before the deadline in December. In Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, and New York, you don't have to answer health questions to get a Medigap plan. If you want to switch from a Medigap plan to an Advantage plan, there's never health questions. You simply need to wait until the fall open enrollment when you can join the Advantage plan, at which point you would drop your Medigap plan as of January 1st. Next, how do you decide which plan is the best fit for you? I highly recommend checking out my free workbook if you haven't already. The easiest way to get a free PDF copy is go to my website, decodingmedicare.com, and when you scroll all the way down to the bottom in the footer, you're going to see a form to request it by email. Again, that's decodingmedicare.com. Toward the end of this workbook, there's a side-by-side comparison of all the characteristics that we just talked about, and it's set up in 2 columns so you can compare point by point. You can ask yourself questions like, how important is it to see any doctor? To me personally, how could I be flexible, or could I be flexible if I had to be? I mean, some people have had the same doctor for 20 years. Some people are just like, I'm not married to any doctor. I can just pick a new one. Most people are able, though, to find an Advantage plan that works with their providers. But there's no guarantee that you're always going to be able to see the doctors that you want to see on your Advantage plan, because they can change over the years. It's appealing also to a lot of people to save money on that monthly premium. So having the lowest possible monthly bill for your plan may be more appealing to you in exchange for some risk. Some people are really uncomfortable with financial risk, and some are not bothered by it much at all. I have clients that love the idea of paying as little as possible for their health insurance, regardless of what income level they're at, and won't lose any sleep at night over any of the risks that I've mentioned on the Advantage plans. These are the types of things that you're going to think about when you're deciding which plan type to choose. I encourage you to book a call with me so I can take you through this process so easily, bypassing all the time and research that you'd have to do going through this process on your own. My help is always 100% free no matter where you're at in the process. Getting the pricing for the Medigap plans and seeing the Advantage plan benefits laid out can really go a long way in helping you to decide. And when you work with me as your broker, you get me as an advocate for the life of your plan, to ask questions and receive annual plan reviews. And finally, what are some of these things that no one talks about with the Advantage plans? If you've ever worked with someone really intent on selling you an Advantage plan, I would be willing to bet they've never talked to you about how you actually may never qualify to get a Medigap plan again, that you only get one free shot to get on a Medigap plan in most states in that new to Medicare window. I'd say that's pretty important, wouldn't you? Maybe it doesn't matter to you though, because what if all you really want is an Advantage plan? But still, don't you at least deserve to know this information up front? There's several things about the Advantage plans that don't get mentioned much also that I want to bring up. Now, it's important to look at the summary of benefits for any copay that has a percentage. They're not all just a flat dollar amount copay. Now, why is this important? Let's talk about chemo. For example, if most plans say 20% for chemo. 20% of what? See what I mean? You have no idea what your bill is going to be if it says 20%. The only way to know what your maximum risk is at all is just to know that plan's out-of-pocket maximum in a year. This is the cutoff to what you'll pay in a calendar year, and how high this number is where the risk comes in. When you know this number, you would know that chemo is 20% of the plan's approved rate for chemo up to that max out-of-pocket cutoff. Advantage plans work for a lot of people, but you deserve to know the whole truth about them so that there's no surprises later. There's no shame in wanting to save some money on your monthly costs, and I think these plans are a good fit for a lot of people, but it's not up to me to decide. It's not for anybody to decide but you. The more you know about a plan and which is best for you, the more confident that you're going to be about the choice you end up making, and you'll be able to prepare better for the unexpected. I currently have availability to help you through this process. There's no reason to have to struggle through it on your own. I can help you find the right plan for you, even if you're starting at square one and you feel like you're behind, you feel like you don't know anything. I'll get you up to speed on how Medicare works, how to enroll in original Medicare, and transition off of a work plan if that happens to be your situation. We can look at specific pricing and benefits for the Medigap and Advantage plans in your area. This is really the only way to go to make a decision on what plan type is your ideal plan. It's so easy to view my availability and book a time to talk with me through the contact page on my website, decodingmedicare.com. I look forward to helping all of you one-on-one, so definitely reach out to me to get help. My help is always 100% free from start to finish and always with ongoing support. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.